All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Welcome to the ultimate high-stakes game of survival, happening right now in our planet's absolute most unforgiving environments. Today, we're taking a global journey to witness firsthand the absolute limits of endurance in the animal kingdom. Survival in the wild is already incredibly brutal on a good day. But when the rules keep changing, that's a completely different ballgame. The baseline harshness of the wild is unforgiving, for sure, but what we're observing right now is that those conditions are being massively amplified by shifting climates all over the globe. These changes are literally pushing animal adaptations to the absolute brink, forcing them to evolve their behaviors in real time or, well, face the ultimate consequence. Okay, let's start with Section 1, the freezing edge, mountains and poles. So when we look at the coldest places on Earth, where the oxygen is super thin and temperatures can plummet to negative 120 degrees, the data shows us these extremes are actually becoming even more volatile. Basically, a warming upper atmosphere is slowing down the jet stream, which is that river of air flowing around the North Pole. Because it's slowing down, the freezing Arctic air escapes. What used to be predictable winter storm patterns, they are now transforming into massive mega storms with wind speeds hitting 150 miles per hour, just freezing everything in their path. Now, just imagine being born into this altered landscape. Take the barnacle goose. Because of early springs and unpredictable seasons, they have to nest way up on rocky pinnacles just to avoid predators. And that brings us to a jaw-dropping number, 400 feet. That is the sheer drop day-old barnacle goose chicks must survive. They can't fly yet, right? But the only grass to eat is a mile away down by the river. So they simply have to jump, tumbling down 400 feet of jagged rocks just to get to their very first meal. Sadly, only about 50% actually make it. But what's truly mind-blowing is how the golden eagle doesn't just survive these brutal alpine conditions, it weaponizes them. They use those fierce mountain winds to their total advantage. Armed with this special sensory organ that detects changes in air pressure, they ride thermal currents up to 11,000 feet in the air. From way up there, they scan the freezing terrain and then dive bomb at 150 miles per hour to scavenge for frozen carcasses. They often have to fight fiercely over whatever meat they can find just to avoid starvation. Moving further out to the Arctic, we hit another absolutely crucial metric, 28.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Why does that matter? Well, that is the exact magic number when seawater freezes. This process creates the vital, sprawling ice kingdom that polar bears desperately rely on to hunt seals. However, records show that since the 1970s, this ice is forming weeks later than it used to. This extends the starvation period for these massive predators and forces them to make some incredibly risky choices. Down at the total opposite end of the Earth in Antarctica, emperor penguins showcase what has to be the most harrowing cooperative survival tactic on the planet. During the brutal winter, the males endure 75 days of perpetual darkness and ferocious 120-mile-per-hour winds. They huddle together, balancing a single egg on their toes, shielded by nothing but their brood pouch. It is just an absolute masterclass in collective sacrifice. Moving on to Section 2. The fluid battlegrounds, oceans, and flooded jungles. Transitioning from the freezing extremes to the aquatic ones, just think about the sheer magnitude of our marine environments for a second. Our oceans provide an incredible 99% of the habitable space on Earth. 99%. It's this massive, fluid, completely unpredictable world where life first evolved, and survival down there is an entirely different game. In this massive blue expanse, you have creatures operating on a scale that's almost hard to wrap your head around. Take the blue whale, literally the largest animal ever to have lived. To survive, a single blue whale requires a staggering 1.5 million calories every single day. To hit that massive quota, it uses a tongue that weighs as much as an elephant to trap up to 2 million krill in a single school bus-sized gulp of water. But of course, not all marine life operates on such an invincible scale. Take our shallow continental seas, home to coral reefs. Even though they make up less than 1,000th of the seafloor, they house 25% of all marine species. Yet the data shows that a mere 3-degree rise in temperature stresses the corals out so much that they expel the colorful algae that feed them. This turns what used to be thriving underwater cities into bleached wastelands, threatening thousands of species that rely on them for shelter. But, nature absolutely abhors a vacuum. As the oceans become imbalanced with rising acidity, changing salinity, and decreasing oxygen, it sets the perfect stage for a totally different kind of survivor. Jellyfish are perfectly suited to these transforming seas. Having no brains, bones, or blood, they simply mutate and multiply into a literal army of clones, shrugging off plastic pollution and heat and rapidly taking over struggling ecosystems. So, the real takeaway here is that water shapes life in astonishing ways, not just in the ocean, but on land too. In our jungles, the sheer volume of moisture is staggering. Get this, jungle trees pump out 20 billion tons of water vapor daily. They literally create their own chaotic weather systems. When the rains fall, so much water collects in places like the Amazon basin that the Earth's crust actually sinks by 3 inches. And in this hyper-humid, decaying environment, totally bizarre life forms thrive. Take the mind-controlling cordyceps fungi, for example. It infects insects, forces them to climb high up, and then erupts right out of their bodies to release 30,000 spores a second. All right, Section 3, the scorching frontlines, grasslands, and deserts. Moving from the humid depths to the sun-baked plains, the grasslands cover a quarter of our planet's land, but they are incredibly volatile. Temperatures here have actually been recorded rising 3 times the global average. This sets up a brutal reality. Starving bison battling massive wolf packs in record-breaking snows, exhausted elephants trying to navigate dry seasons, and sudden apocalyptic supercell storms that pack the energy of 100 nuclear bombs. Not to mention wildfires that can sweep across the plains at 40 miles an hour, burning at 800 degrees. Out in the nearby deserts, resources are even scarcer, turning survival into a true masterclass where knowledge is power. Look at the meerkat. These pups go through a strict survival boot camp taught by the adults. They learn to save their energy by begging the adults to dig out food. They are taught how to safely disarm scorpions. And above all else, they learn that teamwork is their ultimate weapon, coming together as a mob to drive away deadly, venomous Cape cobras. Other creatures deal with the punishing desert sun by just avoiding it entirely. The fennec fox pushes the absolute limits of thermal survival by adopting a strictly nocturnal lifestyle. They've got dense fur for the freezing desert nights, reflective retinas to see in the dark, and enormous ears that literally act as natural radiators to dissipate heat. Similarly, animals like the red kangaroo survive droughts that would easily kill a human by utilizing unique cooling tricks, like evaporating saliva right on their forearms. But the pressure on these desert specialists is definitely mounting. Observations show that global temperatures are causing our deserts to expand rapidly, growing by almost 50,000 square miles every single year. The hottest places on Earth are actively getting hotter and wider. And that brings us to Section 4. Conclusion: resilience in a changing world. From freezing peaks to deep oceans and scorching deserts, we've seen one huge overarching theme in this explainer: the unfailing grit of the animal kingdom. Every single shifting extreme produces a champion of adaptation. From the golden eagle riding altered jet stream winds, to the jellyfish capitalizing on rising ocean acidity, to the meerkat outsmarting expanding droughts. Every biome presents a unique test, and nature continuously finds a way to answer. Understanding these incredible mechanisms isn't just about marveling at wildlife. It's a window into the future of human survival, showing us exactly what it takes to adapt when the environment around you fundamentally shifts. Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative question. As the world's extreme climates expand, will these ultimate survivors, the jellyfish, the meerkats, the fennec foxes, inherit the Earth? The rules of the game are undoubtedly changing, but the resilience of wildlife is nothing short of miraculous. Keep observing the incredible, ever-changing world around us.